Welcome back to The Watch, and today we're going to be talking about terrible TV shows and why they get season 2s.
This is somewhat baffling to me. Do you think it's sunken cost fallacy or something?
It has to be.
You reckon? Because it's not just... Well, look, all right, so some examples. Rings of Power.
Yep.
Velma.
Yep.
Halo.
Yep.
And Star Trek Discovery.
Yep.
That got several seasons.
Also, people know that Last of Us Season 2 is not going to be as good as Last of Us Season 1, right? Like, we all know what's coming.
It's baffling to me, okay? Because this is not like the whole idea of... Once upon a time, Hollywood used to be like, it's only getting a sequel if the first one does well. And if it doesn't do well, not only will they sometimes cancel any sequel opportunity, they might just go ahead and reboot the whole thing in a couple of years.
Well, they used to be like, the sequel always sucks more than the original, so we don't make sequels. Where now it's like, we want 3 sequels ahead before we even greenlight your first season.
It didn't used to be like this. Once upon a time, we would get an Empire Strike Back or Return of the King is the last one. What's it? Two Towers.
Two Towers.
Or Aliens, right? Where or Terminator 2, where the sequels were arguably better than the first film.
Maybe it's judged upon media hype and channels like ours, because even though it's negative feedback, it's still a lot of traffic, still a lot of Google searches, it's still a lot of this.
It's still
and that.
relevant.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe that's their logic.
That was the claim with Velma, that when Velma season 1, it was only made for rage bait.
Yes.
And they felt that actually ended up getting it better views and everything like that.
The problem is it's a trick that only works once.
I don't even think it works once. They didn't
I think it
release
works
the
once.
numbers.
I think it works once.
I mean, I think there was a lot of discussion about it, but that's because it was astronomical dog crap. I think the views were through the floor.
Right. But I think it works. I do think it works as for the first season of things. Sure. But then when the second season comes around, it's like, well,
I mean,
okay.
Another example is He-Man Revolution, whatever it was.
What was it, Kevin Smith's one?
Kevin Smith's one, Bait and Switch. It was absolute feminist propaganda, intersectional woke garbage, right?
Part 2 came around, no
one gave a crap.
Yeah. But when the first one came out, though, you see...
But it wasn't because of the rage bait. There was actual legitimate interest in a rebooted He-Man property.
And a lot of the properties that we've mentioned are legitimate properties that people are interested in, like Halo, Rings of Power, things like that.
This is completely different now, because we're actually talking about not farming off of rage bait for the first initial reaction of the renewed season 1. These are renewed season 2 of categorical dog crap movies and TV shows that most people hated and are guaranteed financial bombs.
I agree. I don't know why there's season 2s. Season 1s, I can understand the trick they're trying to pull. Season 2, I try to find the logic in it, but I come up dry.
I mean, we can look at sometimes there's contractual obligations. You could just... Rings of Power is a maybe, but I really think if Amazon wanted to, they could pull out and just cancel the whole thing. It's a financial disaster. And the thing is, though, it is a financial disaster, but they're not going to cancel it. And for some instances, by the way, Wheel of Time, there's another one. Oh my gosh, where all the dog crap shows, just get us, season 2 of Wheel of Time was dog crap, okay? And it's like they know it's going to be a loss, but they're going to do it anyway because it almost is like a vanity project for them. And I wonder if that's part of an answer where they just want to own the haters. You hate it, we're going to make it anyway to upset you. Even though they're making such astronomical financial losses, look at Disney, all right? Just look at the recent Indiana Jones, Captain Marvel, right? And that's why I don't think the answer can be that they benefit off of the rage bait, because the losses get so big that it's indefensible. Captain Marvel, the Marvels, right, is I think the proof in the pudding for that.
I don't know why they do season 2s. I can understand the season 1s, and I can understand that if you're in a bubble and you haven't stepped in the real world and you have a lot of money to throw around and you have a good IP, you probably think, hey, yeah, this is a good idea. Doing Halo, that's a great idea. Like, in theory, it is. In practice, not so much. But it's things like that where it's like, I can understand why the season 1 gets made. I just cannot fathom why the season 2 gets made.
Is it desperate cope that they think that they can course correct, recorrect the ship?
I genuinely think that if the IP is big enough, like Rings of Power, I think if they course corrected for season 2 and it was a good season, people would be back on board with it. The problem is they're not doing that, and they're not going to do that.
There is only one example where that's worked.
What?
Picard season 3.
Okay.
It's such an anomaly.
I haven't watched it. You keep saying it's great. We
It's
just haven't
really
watched
good.
it.
I loved it, right? The crazy thing about it, right, is that it was done in the right way in the sense that it ignored not only like season 1 and 2 of Picard, it even did some things that kind of retcon certain elements of season 1 and 2 of Picard. Like, there's a character on a ship that everyone hates. There's a character that everyone hates from season 1 and 2 that's on a ship in season 3 that gets destroyed. They're supposedly dead.
I mean, that's one way to do it.
All right. And so Picard season 3 was such a generous, act of respect to the fans, the people who love, Star Trek, especially the Next Generation, right? And the fact that it basically ignored what came before. That's how you could make it work. But a lot of these seasons 2s, the issue that I would have, even if, say, Rings of Power season 2 is good, right? If
It's not. Let's be clear. We're just speaking very hypothetically.
Yeah, right? The fact that if it acknowledges the continuity of what happened in season 1, I could never embrace it. Because if that means having to embrace the dog crap and the insults that were perpetrated in season 1 to the franchise and the fans and things like that, it's dead on arrival for me. There's no way that I will accept a good season 2 if it means accepting a dog crap season 1.
See, that's the thing. Is like maybe the logic is they want to try and course correct for the seasons 2s. The only problem is I can't think of a show off the top of my head that's done that. Like has specifically gone in it with like, oh, season 1 was terrible. People didn't like it. Let's go into season 2 and like, let's fix this. Let's make it right.
Picard season 3 is the only one that's done that.
Yes, but I'm talking about any other like bigger IP ones. Like Rings of Power, they said right after season 1, it's like, if you're expecting something different in season 2, it's already done. Like that type of deal,
Although they did try and claim that they'll be closer to the books in season 2. Don't believe a thing they say because they tried to say, what did they do in season 1? Go back to the books, go back to the books, go back to the books. That's direct right. That was how they answered, and that was bullcrap. Absolute. They were just full of it, lying constantly in a desperate attempt to do damage control for the disaster that they made. You look like you were going to say something.
Yes.
I feel like maybe even they start season 2 before season 1's even out. So by the time that, I think maybe for a lot of these shows, by the time that season 2 is finished, season 1's been released, they get feedback, and it's already too late. You may as well just finish with your budget for season 2, and then cancelled before season 3. I don't know. But even then, I also feel like a lot of these production companies, they're always buddy-buddy with the directors and writers. They always say, hey, best friend, let me write my show because, otherwise my son's not coming to your son's birthday party. I wonder if there's that relationship.
That level of collusion kind of.
Like, I have my agenda and you should agree with it. And if you don't let me write my season 3, then I'm going to call it out.
Well, that's the other side to it, is that I really think a lot of these terrible shows are being made as acts of activism. And because they're pushing the message, right, that's why there is greater desire to keep it going. The Wheel of Time TV series is an interesting one. Most fans of a book series hate this adaptation. Season 1 especially was just loathsome. But there was this interesting pocket group of activist fans who would defend it to the death. If you said anything negative about this show on Reddit, on nearly any one of the Reddit pages that were not even devoted to the show, just the book Reddit pages, right? Because activists gain control and Reddit is just a cesspool of activism, basically, of woke propaganda and crap, with only small exceptions. I will acknowledge there's some exceptions, right? Because they controlled the Wheel of Time fan groups, right? You say anything negative about the show, banned, across the board, no hope. And so they tried to suppress criticism of that show vehemently, right? And so because there's that pocket of activist fans, right, there's the showrunners end up saying, we have a very passionate fan base of people that love the show and we're making it for them, right? And it's like, those aren't the real fans, you realize. They're this tiny minority group where the real fans you have betrayed, and the actual real fans hate what you're making. But then they have this kind of deflection cope where they think, no, our show is actually really good.
I think these executives and these writers know exactly how unpopular it is because they have the numbers. And if you just say like 100,000 people watch your show, cool, but millions of people are not watching your show. Like, they have the numbers, they know how unpopular these things are, and they willfully choose to do these things anyway. I mean, a whole bunch of trailers dropped the other day for a whole bunch of season 2 sort of stuff and beyond, and Halo was one of them. And that trailer was terrible. What do you mean? Like,
all the comments on that trailer was, put Chief back in the helmet,
Thank you.
please. For all that is
a
good.
minute 30 in, first thing you see of him, helmet off, master cheeks. Yeah, what are we doing here?
No uniform, no armor or anything. Everyone's like, just
You've learnt nothing.
Yeah. People were not happy about that. But I actually think that they are aware of the numbers and how much they're failing, but because their policies are so driven in that business sense, because now, in the corporate world, there's things happening aside from entertainment where it's like, we need
investments.
X amount of people. You're not going to get investment if you don't have X amount of certain people working for you in the workforce. I reckon it's the same now. Like, I think in Clarkson Farm, he always says, Amazon wants us to have a diverse range of people. And as you can see here in this farmer's market, there's a diverse range of white men.
Yeah, we have an example of every single type of old white man that you can find.
So obviously for them, if they are pushing it in the production, I think it's no longer about the numbers and the money now. It's more about the message.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that they know these shows are a failure behind the scenes, but they lie about it. When they talk about it openly, they try and say Rings of Power was a monumental movement in their way, and there was so much support for it, and we have this active group of fans that love it. And the lying and gaslighting is extreme.
Yes.
But I think they also
didn't we
lie
get those
that way.
numbers? We got the numbers of like the audience retention from episode 1 to like episode 8, and
No
it
one
was
watched
like
anything past episode 1.
40% or something like drop. It was huge
But
drop.
they won't acknowledge that.
Yeah.
They always acknowledge.
And the problem is, by the time you get those numbers and those facts, the media's moved on and they no longer care about it. So even though you were right in the moment, you were gaslit by the media, and the media's gotten away with it. Going, oh, it was the greatest show. Everybody loved it, blah, blah, blah. You get the numbers a couple of months later, 6 months later, whatever it is. And it's like, well, what do you do now? Because they've already gotten away with it.
And like, at the end of the day, when we kind of try and see all this in perspective, okay, I'm divided. I'm of two minds, because part of me would love to have good media again, good shows. I mean, some of these properties I still have a kind of sliver of an attachment to. I love Star Wars, the original trilogy, right? And the prequels as well. There's a lot to love there still. It's dead to me. But there's still that little, I could still go back and appreciate the old school stuff. And so to get something good out of these properties, like, I have that kind of, wouldn't that be nice? But then there's the fact that we still have the old stuff that's great. Heaps of great shows. You want a great show that you can just binge watch? Person of Interest. Friggin' awesome show. I was talking about recently, I bought, in fact, I have it right here. Let me get it up. Stargate SG-1. Get into physical media. We got a video on it. Physical media is the way to go, people. There. All right. So you can enjoy the old stuff, and you don't really need it. There is so much good old stuff there. But there is that kind of, you want something new and fancy sometimes that you haven't seen. And then now there's the other side to it, where, okay, all these renewed season 2s of horrible shows are going to be horrible, which is just going to make Hollywood die all the faster. And so then I'm like, keep doing it. All power to you. It's more content for us.
Well, usually when it comes to the season 2s, nobody's as engaged because you're angry when the first one comes out. You're like, what the hell? True. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. But by the time season 2 comes out, you go, all right, I know what you're doing. I don't care. I don't care about the release, blah, blah. And the numbers are always worse for those.
Because that's the thing. Wheel of Time season 2, barely anyone was interested in that show. And I reviewed it as a matter of duty for my love for the book series, and I'll continue to do it out of that because it needs to be, because so few people were interested. There were fewer people calling it out for how bad it was. It was atrocious. So there is that side of it, because I think I didn't give a crap about the He-Man
Yeah, nobody cares.
sequel. No one gave a
Like,
crap.
and it's one of those things where
But that's like even more of a death knell.
It is. I don't know how like Rings of Power and Halo and stuff are going to go. The bigger ones, I still think they're going to do like I think they're going to do a lot
there'll be
worse.
attention on those still, especially Rings of Power.
I just don't know about the attention part because
Yeah.
like even then people were like, all right, season 1 was terrible and I hated it. Season 2, I just don't care.
It's hard to describe how bad Halo season 1 was
Mm.
and the just travesty of what they did with Master Cheeks.
I still don't understand why. What's the point of creating something you know people are going to hate when you can create something that people are going to love? Like House of the Dragon season 2 is coming. I am pumped. Let's go,
Hell
baby.
yes.
Like things like that where it's like very few and far between, sadly. But things like that where it's like, wouldn't you want majority of people to be excited about your season 2 of things? But
Well, a lot of them don't know how to make good stuff. Like legitimately, the people who made Rings of Power thought it was good. They loved what they made.
okay.
Which is why season 2 is going to be terrible because that's the talent that they're working with at the moment. Yeah, like you would think that they would want to make good stuff, but then they just keep making the bad stuff. It's funny. I think one of the only companies where I actually see them actively canceling shows with poor performance season 1 is Netflix. They're known for it.
They're known for it. Yeah.
They cancel so many shows after
And then
one
I
season.
question the shows they cancel.
I
'cause
know.
How did they get greenlit in the first place?
And then some shows weren't terrible. And
Yeah.
they get
Cancel them as
cancelled
well.
anyway.
Yeah.
It's what we live in. And look, it's just a video to kind of comment on the reality of what's happening. It's like not much seems like it's going to change, but it just means, all right, they get to destroy themselves all the faster, and we will laugh as Hollywood continues to destroy itself.
Somebody takes that.
Until then, everyone, stay on watch.